Good morning. Thanks for joining us. This has been kind of a tough summer so far here in the greater Boston area. We've had an uptick in the number of shootings and a spate of fatalities, in some cases reportedly tied to gang violence. This news comes at a time when the spotlight is already on issues of race relations and community police relations. Here to talk about that and more with us is Michael Curry, president of the Boston branch of the NAACP, the 106-year-old civil rights organization. Good to have you back here, Michael.
Good to be here.
Thank you very much for coming. Let's start with some more positive news before we get into the bad news. You just returned from participating in a leg of the NAACP's Journey for Justice March, which is going from Selma, Alabama to a rally in Washington next month. 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act is being marked by this. What's the purpose of this march, and what's your takeaway from your participation? What did you learn?
You know, I think it was inspired by the rash of police shootings that we've seen and the deaths of young black and brown men. And the national president, Cornell Brooks, decided that there needed to be a statement from the NAACP and a march that would start in Selma, and really every step along the way, 860 miles, would be for the Tamir Rices, the young man killed in Cleveland, or the Eric Garner, the Michael Brown, the host of other names that people are just becoming familiar with, where justice was not delivered in those cases, and some are still pending. So that march was in part to address that, and then the other part was to address the Voting Rights Act, which we're celebrating this year, but the Supreme Court gutted a section of it that is not allows states to implement these oppressive voter suppression laws within those communities.
Is there progress being made? As I said, let's try to start with some good news here. Is there good news?
I mean, there is good news. I think, you know, we always want to look at the glass as half empty or half full. Of course, there's progress. We have, you know, an second African-American Attorney General, U.S. Attorney General. We've come off 2 terms of a black president. We've made progress, I think, but if you look at every key indicator for communities of color, particularly African-Americans, health disparities, almost any disease you can think of, criminal justice and mass incarceration, arrests, stop and frisk. If you look at economic development and housing and education and achievement gaps, we have a lot of work to do, and it can't be done unless we're intentional about that work.
Well, a lot of progress can't go forward in an atmosphere of violence and crime. I think we all agree on that. And Mayor Walsh last week was quoted sort of chastising people in some of the neighborhoods of Boston that have seen this gun violence for apparently not cooperating enough with police and their push to get guns out of homes and off the streets. Is he right? And if so, why isn't there more cooperation?
Well, I've had this conversation on several occasions with his administration. I'm always concerned about that. Don't blame the victim, right? If you are living in communities that have drugs and violence, then you're trying to figure it out too. And the reality is snitching, this whole issue of snitching, cops don't snitch on cops, right? We've seen that sort of play out across the country. There's this tendency, and I think what it really comes out of is fear. I don't want to tell you the guy down the street has a gun, or the nephew in the house next to me, or the cousin has a gun, because 1, I'm sending that person to prison, and then 2, it is me jeopardizing my own life. And I think there's a concern with that. We need to acknowledge that it exists and then figure out a way to address it.
I thought the city was trying to step up its witness protection initiatives.
Early start. We just started to have that conversation. Dan Connolly has just announced what his effort is to state legislative level to deal with funding, but we're not there yet. This is an early conversation around stepping up our witness protection.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll continue our conversation with Michael Curry of the Boston NAACP in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking with the head of the Boston chapter of the NAACP, Michael Curry. And Michael, are body cameras on police officers the answer?
They're not the answer. I think it's a combination of things when we talk about criminal justice reform. You know, it's special prosecutors. It's a more robust investigatory process when there are complaints. There's a host of other issues that we've presented to the legislature, to our city governments, and to the police departments. It's just a piece of the solution, that ultimately we wanted an objective record of what transpired in an altercation with the police.
Do you think Commissioner Evans's concerns about police doing their job in a situation where there are people filming them or photographing them, their absolute civil right to do so. He wants a buffer zone. Do you think that's a valid issue for him?
I think it's bad timing, right? I think that in the current circumstance we've seen across the country of police doing the wrong thing, that's the wrong time to present that argument. The reality is now everybody's watching and everyone's holding their phone and recording incidents. I think that there is a safe zone that we need for officers to do their jobs. I think we need to have that conversation. But I really want him to pivot and talk about the use of body cameras, his adoption of body cameras. We've recently gotten word that the Massachusetts Association of Minority Law Enforcement Officers are willing to adopt body cameras. So that's huge victory for this effort to have an objective record.
There's been a spate of disruptions of presidential campaign rallies by people identified with the Black Lives Matter movement, and it seems like every time you're here, we're talking about protest, what's valid, what isn't, what works, what doesn't. I saw a talking head on CNN talking about these disruptions and saying that, quote, respectability hasn't gotten us anywhere, end quote. I don't know what Dr. King would have to say about that. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, you know, I try to be very cautious about criticizing how other people, you know, do their advocacy. I mean, ultimately, Cornell Brooks, our national president, describes a lot of these young activists as young practitioners of democracy, that they're figuring this out. You know, they're in their teens and their 20s, and they're trying to challenge institution and the power structure to do what they think is the right thing. And it's not always going to look like you and I would do it. It's not going to always be neat. It's not going to always be directed at the right person. And, you know, ultimately, hopefully, it serves the greater good.
Is it legitimate concern that it might be counterproductive?
No, I think ultimately, if you're talking about it, meaning the public's talking about it, then it's productive. It serves the purpose.
Anything's better than being off the radar.
Exactly.
Yeah. Really appreciate you being here, Michael Curry.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
President of the Boston chapter of the NAACP. That's it for us now. I return you to my colleagues for more WBZ News.